Out this summer in a seesaw campaign where towns change hands from week to week. The Turks have lost nearly 60,000 men and the Russians haven't fared much better. Then in September, Grand Duke Nicholas, the uncle of Tsar Nicholas II, takes command of the Caucasus Front. From his headquarters in the city of Kars, Nicholas and his staff spend the rest of the year planning their next offensive. By January 1916, they are ready to move. With nearly twice as many troops, they launch a surprise attack against the Turks and drive them back toward the west. The Russians break through along the entire eastern front. The Ottoman Third Army is routed and retreats to the fortress at Erzurum. In mid-February, the ancient fortress falls to the Russian invaders. The capture of Erzurum is too painful to make public. Even the Sultan himself does not learn of the defeat for several months. Another Russian force lands from the Black Sea and takes the city of Riza in March and then Trabzon in April. Battles rage between the Russians and Turks throughout the spring and summer. By the end of August, Nicholas has defeated two armies and occupied a massive amount of enemy land. He is in full control now, and his exhausted troops can finally rest. The Ottoman Second and Third Armies have suffered mortal blows. They have lost 100,000 men, supplies are nearly gone, and any male, from 16 to 50, is being drafted to fill the dwindling ranks. By the end of 1916, Turkish soldiers on the Eastern Front are dying by the hundreds of disease, starvation, or exposure to the harsh winter.
Great losses are caused by lack of subsistence and lack of warm clothing. Many Turkish soldiers are dressed in thin summer garments, have no overcoats, and no boots. The feet are mostly wrapped in rags from which the toes protrude. All men are badly undernourished.
The land itself is dead and cold. The few factories stand silent and empty. The supply system fails. Food, clothing, and equipment are scarce. Turkish soldiers aren't the only ones suffering. A massive amount of refugees are also dying. Hundreds of thousands also fall victim to starvation, exposure, and disease. An additional threat comes from marauding bandits, deserters, rebel groups, and hostile soldiers. Massacres are common throughout the land. By the end of the war in Turkey, more than 1 million civilians will be dead. In late December 1915, General Townsend and about 13,000 men are surrounded at Kut el Amra. The enemy has somehow amassed a superior force without the benefit of railroads.
They showed up in places that they shouldn't. The Allies were always mystified why the Turks beat them to certain hills and objectives in certain battles. It was a highly mobile army. Our impression of the Turks is that they were only good sitting in a trench. Well, the fact is that they were tremendously mobile. They were capable of marches over great distances, hard-marching, tough soldiers who were very, very mobile and agile. They could shift from the defensive to the offensive in a matter of hours.
Then, from Istanbul, German Field Marshal Komar von der Goltz arrives to supervise operations against the British. He decides to use an ancient tactic of warfare against the enemy. He will starve them into submission. From January to April, British forces under General F.J. Aylmer try to break the Turkish siege with several attacks. All of them fail. General Townsend's men are on half rations and they're running out of bullets. A final effort is made to get food and supplies to Townsend's starving troops. Under a moonlit night, a paddle steamer makes its way up the Tigris with food and provisions. Its rudder catches on a cable stretched across the river by the Turks, 8 miles from Kut. The crew is killed or captured. The supplies go to the enemy. On April 27th, the British troops at Kut begin to destroy their guns. 2 days later, 13